Good evening. As a part of interlude, today we'll be focusing on adapting change, and we'll see how change is important. And when it comes to adapting to change, what are the areas one has to focus? All these things will be deciphered now by Dr. Deena. Over to you.
Hello, hello, hello. Change. I love to share the fact that once people usually speak about change, they say, change is great. You go first, right? And I will say, yes, I will go first because we have to reframe how we think and consider change. And so I want to introduce a concept to you. It's not my very own, but it's a powerful concept to understand and grapple with adapting to change. And that concept is Kaizen. If you haven't heard of Kaizen before, Kaizen, what it is, it's a Japanese term meaning change for good. It's being in a continuous improvement process, a continuous improvement cycle. And so today, when we talk about adapting to change, we're really going to be talking about Kaizen and how can we begin to Kaizen our own life. Right? How can we change our own life for good and understand that it is a process? It's a multi-step process. So I want to start to take you through the steps. Okay? Are you ready? I know that I am. And every day that I wake up, and you'll hear me talk a lot about the shift factor, is when we have to shift from where we are now to where we want to be. And in order to shift, we have to be self-aware. That's the S. Okay, there's the S in the shift factor, to be self-aware. And then we need to humble ourselves and be intentional and be focused and tenacious. Well, that is a core element to change as well, because change is inevitable, but growth is something that's optional. And if you're thinking about Kaizen, you're thinking about a continuous improvement process. So I love to break things down into alliterative concepts. So let's start with the P. I'm going to give you a P3 formula for adapting to change. So the P, as we Kaizen our lives, change for the good, begin to implement processes that's going to do us good over time, and that we're going to always stay in that process. So the P stands for, number one, what is the purpose for your change? Is it because there's been something that cataclysmic that's occurred? Are you changing because, it's for time reasons? Are you changing because there's a sense of urgency? What is the rationale and the reason for the change? What is the why factor? What is the why factor? And I call that purposeful piece to your change process. And once you get very clear on what that purposeful piece is, that why factor, it'll lead you to be able to develop a wow mentality of, wow, I really need to begin to take some steps. I really need to begin to identify the purpose for this change. And if you reflect back onto the last show, and I encourage you to do so, remember that I encourage you to take inventory. Take inventory for the gaps in your life. Take inventory and find out, where do I need to improve? Where am I stuck? Where am I not moving forward? Where things seem out of alignment? And that is the grounding part of your purpose to why you need to change. And again, change can be phenomenal. Change can be phenomenal. If you don't believe me, ask the butterfly. Not only changed, but it went through a transformation. So the first thing is the purpose. Why? Why do I ask why? And a lot of times we don't sit in the why of it. We just do things. And then later on, when we come back to it, we don't have a reason. There was no purpose. And so then we come back and then we lament the change and we regret the change. We regret the steps that we took in that. And so again, the why is critical. And this will be a grounding question. Whenever you hear from me, know that you're probably going to hear this question. Where is the opportunity in your life for you to be better, to do more, to live more, to give more, to love more? Where's that opportunity? And that begins to help you build a concrete construct to Kaizen your life and identify the purpose, okay? The purpose for the change. So we got the P, the first P for that. The second P, now that we've identified the purpose, now we have to kind of look and see, how is this really related to our passion? Where's the passion in it? Because the purpose is going to give you the wow and the what for, and the passion is going to give you the fuel to continue to move forward to do that. And that the passion of the change doesn't mean that this is something that you're so super duper excited about, but more that you're looking at the end results. And so when you're going through your improvement process and you've identified, number one, your purpose, and now you've kind of attached that to your passion, and you're like, okay, I need to continue to improve. I need to continue to adjust. I need to continue to move to my next grader because I want this for me. So part of that passion has to be what's in it for yourself, not just what's in it for others, what's in it for me. How am I going to grow? How am I going to elevate my life? How am I going to elevate my leadership? How am I going to elevate my thought processes? And so the purpose, now we've attached it to the passion of that. I want this because I want this for me. That's at the core of that. You've got to begin to want it for yourself and not change because somebody else wants you to change. When you're thinking about, again, like I said, kaizening your life, and you're looking at the improvement process and you're identifying the areas that you need to grow, and you've now identified and you've taken stock of the why, and now you're sitting there saying, now this makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. And now we fuel it with the passion. We can move to the third P. And this is one of the most powerful pieces to the third P, is that how do we put it into production? How do we put the process into place? How do we start? Well, here's the interesting part, is that you actually started with your why, which was your purpose. And now we need to put the procedures and the practices in place. And how do we begin to take those things one day at a time, one step at a time, in order to, again, adapt to the change? And when you say adapting to change, I don't know what you think and what needs to change in your life. And I can just share with you even my own life when I had to make some adjustments. And what has happened probably within the last 6 months is that the world changed. And then I had a choice to make, that I can stay rooted and stuck in the past, wishing that things would go back to the way they used to be, or I can move and look forward and have that concept of that future shift and say, how do I need to modify what I do in my life and in my business to prepare myself for the next? And so again, my purpose was that I had no choice. Sometimes that's part of it. Part of your catalyst for change is that you don't have a choice. But then I realized that fundamentally, we all have a choice. We have a choice to stay stuck, or we have a choice to shift and to move. And that's what I did. And so once I realized and looked at purposefully and passionately that I needed this time to elevate to the next greatest version of myself. And then the passion of, wow, what can I do? What do I really want to do with my life, with my business, with my learning, with my relationships? So if you are a business owner, great, but what about your relationships as well? This actually works because sometimes we have to change our relationships and our ecosystem in order to grow to the next grader as well. And so then I thought, what does that look like? What do I begin to do? And that's where the practices begin to line up. So that's why I said it's a P3 formula. So what does it look like? Well, I needed to change how I embrace my day. I know, and I know people are getting tired of hearing about, COVID, but and that whole concept of the pandemic. But I remember the first few weeks that it was like I felt stuck. I felt like I was in quicksand. I just kind of meandered about going, okay, this is not really happening. And I didn't want to get dressed. I didn't really kind of want to do a lot of things. I just did enough. And then I realized that, wow, enough is not going to cut it for me to live my very best life. And I want to live my very best life today. So what did I begin to do? I began to put in a program. So I set my alarm. You will wake up at such a time each morning. I'll start with my meditation. I'll start with my prayer time. I have dedicated reading time. And so I put myself on a schedule I put myself on a schedule because I realized that when I was unscheduled, it seemed like my days just kind of ran into each other and I wasn't purposeful at all. And I wasn't passionate about anything. And so, what I needed to do was to actually get myself back in the grid because for me, it was no longer about adapting to change. It was about transforming into the greatest, higher version of myself. And so, with that, I said, you will also get dressed. You will get dressed. So you might have, people say, you got the party on the top and, you got the, actually the seriousness on the top and like the party on the bottom to do that. But I said, how can I really shift the way that I think about this? And I said, well, maybe if I got dressed every day, okay, I will schedule a lunch for myself. Okay, I will actually have a cutoff time. I began to build practices. And this is from a personal perspective that impacted how I began to work. So now, when again, working from home, I then had a routine that didn't feel like it was something that I was begrudging. I actually had a work day. And then I also had some work play. So after that, then I was able to allot some time for myself to go out, take a walk, make a dinner, try a new recipe. And so, what I really want to share with you is that when you're considering adapting to change, is that it all starts in your mind. How do you frame it? How do you see it? And if you don't begin to see change as an opportunity to grow and to become better and to do more, to be everything that you want to be in this season, then of course you're going to lament change. You're going to. But I encourage you to embrace it, embrace the moment. And for those of you that are business professionals and you're wondering organizationally, how does this work? I shared a little bit about how does this actually work on a personal level. But what I want you to understand is that the whole concept of Kaizen comes from a business construct about starting and taking a look and seeing what the opportunity for the improvement process is. And then once you then go and you implement a couple of things, and then you take another look at it again, and then you start back again. And so it's a continuous cycle to improve, to reduce waste, number one. Okay. How can I remove those things that are no longer of value? And I liken that to when I said, get clear about your purpose. Okay. With that, is when you are clear about your purpose, you will find that you will begin to take things away, not add things to your life, because you will find that you have more than enough. You probably have some extra things that you really don't actually need in your life. And so when you're going through the Kaizen process from a business perspective, you're identifying where the waste is. Where are you expending energy and resources that are no longer needed? I'll pause. Isn't that powerful? Where are you expending resources where you don't need to be spending it? So what that is called is waste. And it could be a waste of time, energy, and effort. But oftentimes in a business setting, it's dollars that go with it too. It's money. Okay. It has a huge financial impact. That's why Kaizen is so critical as part of a business construct. So once you've identified what you need to remove from that, then you wonder, how do I begin to restructure what I have left? There's that passion piece. Okay, the P3 concept. How do I begin to take what we have? And this again includes people and resources. How can we optimize them? Optimize them so that there's an advantage for all who are part of that construct. So when you're Kaizen your life, or you're using Kaizen construct in business, it's about a continuous process to evaluate what's working, what's not working, and how can you get better. So I've gotten rid of the waste. I've identified where I need to improve. I've implemented, I've tried some things to see if they're going to work. I put in another procedural, I put in a practice, and then I test that practice. And when I test that practice, then I move to the next piece. How is it working? Is there any part of this practice that's a waste? Is there any part of this practice that's not needed? And then I go through the cycle again. And so when you're looking at it in a continual fashion, then you know what? Adapting to change is the norm. It's not abnormal. It's actually normal. It happens in nature all the time. You see this continuation. Look at how a seed grows into a flower, and then that flower will bloom, the petals will fall, and then the process will go all over again. You are like that beautiful flower. You are part of the beautiful process of change. You can resist it, and when you resist it, that's when you kind of butt heads, and that's when it doesn't feel good. It also doesn't feel good when things are out of alignment, and that's why you have to be very, very clear. So I want to really quickly tap into what I told you again, the three things that you need to understand. And this is the C3 blueprint that I share with you is good across all constructs and around personal, professionally, even spiritually, is that once you're clear about who you are, what you want to do, where you are in your life, where you want to go next, who you want to be with, you can boldly and confidently stand in that space and begin to execute, not just think about it. You can execute, and then you can consistently show up. And part of that consistency is adapting to change. Adapting to change. And when I think about what I call future shifting, there's an element to future shifting that's about now casting. Okay. What am I going to do now in order to make sure that where I want to be is exactly where I want to be? And that how am I putting in the steps? How am I putting in the procedures? How am I putting in all the necessary constructs to do that? And that's what's the powerful piece when we talk about adapting to change. And I hope that when you think about the areas in your life that you want to change, is that you are clear and you're confident and you begin to show up consistently to do that. Because now when you think about kaizening your life, you're purposeful about it and you're passionate about what you've decided. And now you begin to produce results because you've actually put procedures and policies in place to be able to do that. And so I ask you this question, and I leave you with this question. What in your life, what do you think that you could change for you to truly elevate to the highest version of yourself? What would that actually be?
Thank you so much. The most important part of life, especially taking cue from nature, that change is inevitable, and one who adapts to change will be able to grow or move or progress to the next stage. And people who resist do not yield what they expect as an outcome. And the most important aspect is explained in such an easy manner. And it's more like a template which you have given where they can apply it on personal life or professional life. And result is definitely going to be guaranteed when they implement this. Thank you so much. Every week you come, you actually inspire people, you motivate people, and you provide them with a clean template, which they all have to do is just go and just apply it, and then result is guaranteed. Last week we saw about the futuristic approach, and then this week we saw about adapting to change. Next week we're going to touch on the power of networking. So I'm really happy that you come every week on dot, all the way from California, educate people, inspire people, and help them to achieve what they want to achieve in life. Thank you so much, Dr. Deena. I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
That was Dr. Deena. As I mentioned, every week on dot, she comes and she gives few points which are key points in life to improve. Key points, whichever stage you are in, take it, apply it, and change is guaranteed in a positive way. Thank you.